Her mother chose death. She swallowed poison rather than let Rome turn her into a spectacle. But her daughter, Cleopatra Selene, was not given that escape. Rome spared her life, and that was the punishment. When Roman soldiers reached the children of Egypt's greatest queen, they did not raise their swords. They raised chains. They bound the little girl, dragged her across foreign streets, and forced her to walk past a statue of her dead mother, frozen forever in stone. Rome called this mercy, but mercy was not what followed. Her crown was taken. Her name was emptied of meaning. Her future was rewritten by men who saw her only as a tool. For years, she lived under the roof of the man who destroyed her family, watching her bloodline disappear piece by piece. Her brother was killed. Her identity was erased. Her silence was demanded. And the world was taught to forget her suffering. Cleopatra Selene did not die like her mother. She lived. And Rome made sure that every day of that life reminded her who owned it. To understand how this happened, you have to return to the war that ended Egypt. In 31 BC, the Mediterranean trembled as two forces collided. Cleopatra VII had ruled Egypt for decades, outsmarted Rome's politicians, and aligned herself with Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful generals. Together, they controlled wealth, armies, and lands that rivaled Rome itself. But they misjudged one man. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, did not care about glory. He cared about control. While Antony celebrated in Alexandria, Octavian worked quietly in Rome, turning whispers into law and allies into weapons. In 32 BC, he broke into the sacred temple of Vesta and stole Antony's will. He read it aloud to the Senate. It declared loyalty to Cleopatra, burial in Egypt, and inheritance for their children. Rome erupted. Octavian pointed the blame not at Antony, but at Cleopatra. He painted her as a foreign witch who had stolen a Roman hero. The story spread. The Senate believed it. Rome declared war. The Battle of Actium destroyed everything. Antony and Cleopatra's fleet collapsed. Their allies fled. Their empire vanished in a single year. Cleopatra tried to bargain. She offered herself if her children were spared. Octavian refused. He said there could not be two Caesars in the world. He meant her son. Back in Alexandria, with Roman troops closing in, Cleopatra understood the truth. Her children would never be free. So she chose death. Antony followed her. Cleopatra Selene was not yet 10 when her mother died. Cleopatra had tried to save her children, sending them away with guards and gold. It failed. Roman soldiers caught them on the road and brought them back in chains. In that moment, the children of Egypt's queen became trophies of Rome. What followed was designed to crush them without leaving marks. In 29 BC, Octavian celebrated his triumph in Rome. It was not just a parade. It was a performance of domination. Gold from Egypt was displayed. Sacred treasures were mocked. And at the center stood a statue of Cleopatra holding a snake, turned into a joke for the crowd. Behind that statue walked her children. Cleopatra Selene, 10 years old, dragged through the streets in heavy chains. Her twin brother beside her. The crowd cheered. They saw Rome's victory made flesh. A girl who had been born in palaces now marched like an animal. Rome had not just conquered a land. It had conquered a bloodline, and it wanted the world to watch. After the parade, Selene was taken into the house of Octavia, the sister of Octavian. The irony was cruel. Octavia had been Antony's wife before Cleopatra. Now she raised Cleopatra's daughter. By all accounts, the children were treated kindly. They were educated, clothed, and fed well, Historians later called this generosity. It was not. It was control. As long as Selene lived, she was dangerous. She carried royal blood. She could inspire rebellion. So Octavian did not kill her. He kept her close. He made her comfortable. He watched every step. Her life became a beautiful prison. She learned Roman ways, Roman language, Roman obedience, and she watched as her family vanished. Caesarion, her older brother, was hunted down and murdered despite promises of safety. Her younger brother disappeared without record. One day he was there. The next day he was gone. Selene learned to smile through loss, to thank her captors, to survive by silence. Rome then began its deeper work. Everything Egyptian was stripped from her. Her mother was rewritten as a villain. Poets mocked Cleopatra. Senators spat her name in speeches. Selene heard it all. Day after day, she listened as her mother was called a seductress, a traitor, a monster. And she had to agree. To survive, she had to learn to hate her own past. She learned that pride meant death. That memory was dangerous. That obedience was life. For 15 years, she lived perfectly, never slipping, never resisting, never reminding Rome of who she truly was. She became the proof that Rome could break even the daughter of a queen. When Selene reached her mid-teens, Octavian made another move. She could not stay in Rome forever. One day, she would marry. One day, she might have children, and that frightened him. So he chose her husband carefully. He gave her to Juba too, a king who had lost everything to Rome, just like her. Juba had been taken as a child, raised as a hostage, shaped into a loyal servant. He understood captivity. Together, they were sent to rule Mauritania, a kingdom created by Rome and watched by Rome. It was far enough to feel free, close enough to remain controlled. For the first time, Selene ruled something. She rebuilt cities. She brought scholars and artists. She mixed Egyptian, Greek, and Roman culture into something new. She made the kingdom rich and stable. She became a real queen at last. But even then, she was never free. Every decision had to please Rome. Her children were raised Roman. Her power existed only because Augustus allowed it. The cage had grown larger and softer, but it was still a cage. Selene understood this. She was too intelligent not to. She had survived by becoming exactly what Rome wanted her to be. A queen who ruled only by permission. A symbol of mercy that was never mercy at all. Cleopatra Selene died around 05 BC, still young, her final years unrecorded, history barely noticed. Her tomb still stands in Algeria, blending cultures, like her life. A monument to a woman who belonged nowhere. Her story is not tragic because she failed. It is tragic because she survived. Rome did not execute her. It reshaped her. It took a princess and turned her into proof of its power. Her mother chose death to escape that fate. Selene did not get the choice. She had to live. And that was worse than death.